get going. Um, well, you kind of gave a little bit of a hint of what we're going to be spending time on today, but here's that in writing in case you're like me and you are a visual learner. So first, we're going to do a very quick intro so you get to know who you're talking to in case we haven't had a chance to chat before. We also wanted to talk about why we wanted to build analytics and experiments in Replo. And primarily, we wanted to talk about what we heard from you all, our customers. And that's really what prompted us to decide to start building these products that we launched this past month. Um, the majority of the session is going to be in a demo, and I'm going to be diving into these products live, showing you some of the key pieces of these different products and answering any of the questions that you have along the way. We'll also have some Q&A at the very end, just in case I didn't get a chance to answer those questions throughout the demo. And hopefully you all have some really awesome questions about this product. Going into it, I'll introduce myself quickly. I'm Alicia. I'm the product lead here at Replo. Been on the Replo team for over a year now, year and a half, not as long as Sanjay. But I'm really, really happy to be here. I've loved working on this product and I've loved working on this team and building stuff for you all. So yeah, I'll let Sanjay introduce himself.
If you don't know me already, my name is Sanjay. I'm part of the growth team at Replo. I'm coming up on 2 years at Replo. January 3rd will be my 2 year anniversary. And I'm usually the guy that's doing the podcast, all the videos that you see around. And this is a really great change of pace. Normally we have a lot of folks that are agency operators, brand operators. Now you finally get a chance to meet some folks that are directly responsible for building the platform that you're in day to day. So gonna have a lot of cool stuff to cover today. I've been using some of the features that we're gonna cover quite a bit for my own clients as well. I'm an operator by history, I guess. So I've really enjoyed it, and I hope that you all start to use it and enjoy it as much as I do.
Cool. All right, I think we'll just get into it then. So why did we start to build out analytics and experiments at Replo? I kind of want to start with a question, and you can just answer this in the chat. I know Sanjay can answer this too. But how do you know if your landing pages are successful or not? What are the things that you look at? What does success mean to you? You can do something really, really fast in the chat. And then Sanjay, like what do you do to know that your landing pages are successful?
Yeah, so at this point, when I first started building landing pages, it was like I know that landing pages are good, but I didn't really know how to measure them. And so now I'm looking pretty extensively at conversion rate on the page, the actual raw volume of traffic that's going to these pages, AOV. Like a lot of the pages that I test now are like, I'm trying to specifically increase AOV to the offers that I'm testing. And then, like I know we've got some folks like revenue per session, earnings per session, or those EPC, earnings per click, another great metrics that are being brought in the chat.
Hmm.
Taylor says, conversion rate is above 3%. I was just
Yeah.
having a random conversation yesterday of like, it used to be like 2% was like the benchmark, and now like I think it's dropped. The average e-commerce conversion rate is like 1.5%. So getting to 3% and above, especially on cold traffic, being able to scale that out, it's really big. Earnings per click, revenue per session, those are some of the big metrics that we're looking at.
Yes, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. And I heard a lot of those things because we went out and we asked a bunch of customers. Like I've been asking this for a long time, but we went and did a research project. We asked 30 of our customers this exact question. We said, how do you know whether or not your Replo landing page is successful? And we learned a lot from those conversations that we had after that. And I'm going to go next into some of those things that we did learn after having those conversations. Um, the first thing that I wanted to call out was that we learned that it was hard to know exactly how these pages are performing, and it's hard to know exactly what success looks like. Heard a bunch of different things across the board, and that was something similar that we heard from a lot of our customers. We didn't really hear the same thing over and over again. We heard, we kind of pull these targets from thin air sometimes. As long as I can move one number while keeping one number the same, that's success. We've heard things like if my conversion rate is above 3%. So I think across the board, depending on the industry that you're in, depending on where you're coming from, your definition could be a little different on what success looks like. And we learned that it's kind of hard to actually track those things. And that comes down to the different tools that people are using to figure out what success looks like for them. Yeah, Sanjay, anything to add to this?
Yeah, it's I mean, historically been pretty tricky, right? Like you're usually going between a bunch of different tools and just actually trying to build the report that you want that shows you the data. That's always been difficult. Got even harder once GA4 came along. I know like for a long time I was a big UA guy, Universal Analytics on Google is free. It was so nice to like get like the ecom specific reports. Now where GA4 is at, it's just like so hard to surface like the stuff that matters to like ecom people. It's good for like
Hmm.
just general site analytics, but like having something that's specific to ecom people has been pretty tricky, especially juggling a bunch of different tools.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that goes, really directly into, yeah, other tools don't make it easy to find out, not to name a ton of names. But as you said, people really loved using uh, Universal Analytics, and now we're kind of stuck in this world where we're using GA. It's really hard to understand what people are doing on our pages. It's really hard to understand some of these e-commerce metrics. A lot of our customers use, Shopify Analytics out of the box, but even that, a lot of the information that you're looking for is buried in all these different types of reports, and it's really challenging to kind of slice and dice and find landing page specific metrics in something like Shopify Analytics. So yeah, I think we heard this across the board. Yeah, does anyone love GA? Yeah, we heard a lot of hate seems like such a strong word, but not a
I've
lot of
heard hate.
love.
I've
Not a
heard a
lot
lot of
of love.
true vitriol directed at GA4 specifically.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But we know a lot of people are using these tools because that's what exists. And there are parts where some people can do really like these tools because they can really get in the weeds sometimes. And depending on your needs or your use cases, these types of tools do offer that. But what we found is that for the average customer that's looking at some of these high level metrics, it is really challenging to just drill down to understand what is or isn't working for the pages that you're building in Replo. Um, and lastly, I think Sanjay mentioned this as well. Um, this really goes into experiments on our side. And while we were learning a little bit about the tools that people were using to track success, we learned a lot about the tools that people were using to test and make changes to those pages to improve those metrics. And what we heard over and over again were I am using 5 tools to accomplish what I'm trying to do today from a testing perspective. And you can see in this very first quote here that I got from a customer where, they're jumping through 5 different tools to do the A/B testing that they want to be doing today. And that's, building their pages in Replo, that is going into IntelliGems and doing the A/B testing, looking at the heat maps in Clarity, and then looking at other metrics in GA4. And they're trying to piece together this like puzzle across all these different platforms so that they can start increasing that conversion rate and achieving some of the goals that they set out at the beginning. Um, yeah, I think those
Yeah,
are kind of the key areas. Yeah.
at the end of the day, like we want Replo customers to be able to like know at a glance, hey, is this thing working or not, right? Being able to get that data allows you to either scale up campaigns, duplicate landing pages that are working, duplicating sections that are working, or you're like, oh, I need to go back to the drawing board. At the end of the day, our job at Replo is to help you make more money with the money that you're already spending on ads, you're on creative, et cetera. We want to help you make more money, and I think what we're about to show you will help you do that.
Definitely. Great. And so then, how does this relate to Replo? How does this relate to what I'm going to show you today inside the product? We know what we do well at Replo, and that is help you create pages that are highly customized to your brand, and will help you do that fast without a dev team. But through all these conversations that we had with our customers, we know that Replo is one part of your toolkit. It is something that you use for this specific use case, but it requires you to use Replo with a lot of these other tools in order for you to paint the full picture to answer all the questions you have about how your page is performing, how your site is performing. Um, and so what we were thinking about was, okay, what if you could do a little bit more of this workflow inside of Replo and go from just being this implementation tool to being a tool where you can, really think a little bit more about design, think a little bit more about the metrics. So seeing whether or not the experience you launched is working as you expected, and then working a little bit more into conversion rate optimization. So if the experience isn't working as I expected it to, I want to understand why it might not be working and try to make it better. And then it all kind of goes back into this flow as you create more pages and launch more tests and do all these different things. So that was really the reason why we got really excited about this opportunity to start helping our customers learn about their Replo pages and start testing their Replo pages all within the Replo product.
This is just
Um,
really quickly, I will say what these last two slides, this is like how we are internally thinking about this. So you're getting an insight to how we actually develop the platform as well while you're watching Alicia talk about all this stuff. It's a little bit of inside baseball. I love getting a chance to share this kind of stuff.
yeah, definitely. Cool. So what does that actually look like in these products that we built? And then I'm going to jump into in a demo in a second. The first thing is, with Replo Analytics, what we wanted to do with this very first beta version that I'm going to be sharing with you is get all the metrics that you care about with a one-click setup. And that's something that was super important for us. We wanted it to be really, really easy for you to set up this framework and very quickly start seeing the core key e-commerce metrics that you care about when we're talking about these Replo pages that you're building. And secondarily, with Replo Experiments, we wanted to help you set up lightning fast tests in an editor that you actually like working in. I think throughout this process, we looked at a lot of different A/B testing tools and noticed that a common pain point across all these testing tools is that it's really hard to make edits or changes or actually try to test different content in these other tools because they're not really editor first tools. So that was something that was super important to us as we were thinking about expanding into these new areas. Was that how can we make this experiment process as smooth and seamless as possible, take all the things that our customers love about the Replo editor and just take it one step further and allow for that testing to happen inside of Replo. Um, Amazing. Well, I'm really excited to jump into the demos now. Sanjay, is there anything else that you'd want to add as I'm actually sharing my screen and jumping into Replo?
Nothing other than that. Let's get into it. I'm ready to peel back, show people what it actually looks like.
Yes, awesome. I'm ready to get into it too. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, feel free to ask questions as we go. Sanjay, if you are reading those questions that are coming in, you can just, shout out and I'll be able to take a look. Okay, amazing. So what I'm going to be demoing in today is a demo store called Replo Merch. It's where we sell all of our key Replo merch from, like our hoodies and our bags and things. But really, this is a demo space where we go and we test our products. So note before I jump into all of these numbers that you're going to be seeing from analytics and experiments, these are not real numbers. These are things that we're using internally. So it's going to look a little different than some of the numbers that you will hopefully be seeing on your live websites. But I like to call that out because you might be seeing some funkier numbers in this testing and demo environment.
You're about to
The
see like the two like less than a percentage conversion rate on some random print on demand stuff that I set up a year ago. So
Yeah.
that's a good call out.
Yeah, I like to put the disclosure at the beginning. Yeah, so going into it, the two things that I'm going to review today and demo are going to be these new spaces in Replo called analytics and experiments. I'm going to start with analytics because to me, that's really that first step of starting to learn a little bit more about how your pages are performing. And I'm going to jump right into this kind of default table view that we do have for all the pages on your site. So something to note is that when you actually connect to Replo and you integrate your Shopify store, that allows us to start learning a little bit more about not only your Replo pages, but pages outside of Replo. So when you do come into analytics and you click that button to set up analytics, we're going to start reporting data on all of the pages across your entire site. So when you come in here and you start looking at all the content on here, you're going to see Replo pages, you're going to see non-Replo pages. Some of the key filters that you can do right when you jump in are time, whether that's, the last 7, 14, 30 days. You can look at the week to date, month to date, last month, etc., or even choose a custom time range. I'm just going to jump to the last 30 days. That's where we probably have a little bit more data. And you're going to notice some of these different indicators here of how these might be trending over time, because we are comparing the last 30 days to that 30 days before. So really what this is meant to be is a place where you can really quickly come in, get a glance of specific pages that you're interested in learning more about. A lot of customers come down and they start searching for, oh, well, I really just want to see the pages that are on my site. So I'm going to come in, search for pages, or maybe I have, okay, well, we're going to jump into some demo tests here. I really care about my Figma demo test. So I just want to filter down to those pages. And when you do that, you can come in here and just see that subset and see the information that you're mostly searching for. All the key metrics that we pull out into this table are the ones that we heard the most from our customers. A couple things that I want to hint to potentially exploring in the future are connecting a little bit more to the ad side, because we know that that is very, very important. But for the first, beta launch of analytics, what we focused on was more of that on-site performance. So once someone actually lands on a page, what is the experience and what are the metrics post landing on that page? Though we are considering in the future doing a little bit more of a connection with the different ad platforms, so we can give you some numbers like ROAS, etc., so you can learn a little bit more about the whole customer lifecycle. So let's drill down and take a look at some of the key metrics that we are reporting on. Of course, at a base in Replo right now, it's all going to be session based. In the future, we'll probably introduce something like visitor as well. We know there's slight differences between these different experiences, and visitors count are valued a little bit more highly from a customer perspective, but we're starting with sessions. And then some other key things are conversions, revenue associated with that page, conversion rate, AOV, and revenue per session. All the key core metrics, they're all going to be right here for you to take a look at and see across the board. You can also, if you're interested, filter down based on UTM campaigns. So we know that a lot of our customers really only care about metrics for specific campaigns or specific sources. This is a super easy way to just filter out the noise, filter out some of the things that you might not care about as much right now, and drill down a little bit more to those specific campaigns or those specific sources. So you can come in here and really, it's pretty flexible. We'll pull in all of the different parameters that you might have added, and you can filter down very, very easily.
I'm gonna show a couple questions on the stream.
Well,
Let's do 5 seconds. Here we go. The first one is, will we be able to see scroll depth, bounce, and time on page? Obviously, it's to analyze blog articles, but that's kind of a general question.
yes, I love that question, because that was something that is really it's literally in our backlog as like we want to be doing this very shortly. It did get cut for this initial beta release, but that's very much the direction that we're going in next. So hopefully soon there should be additional metrics in here that are more based on, end user interaction with the page, things like bounce rate, scroll depth, etc. So that is very much like exactly the types of things we want to be adding next.
Nice. And one more, will there be an option for heat maps?
Oh, I also love this question. I can't say that this one is as near as something like the request of the previous one, but this is definitely a big thing that we're considering. I think when we talked with all of our customers, and that one slide where I was, talking about switching between four different tools over and over and over again, a big piece of learning what might be going wrong with your page is seeing where people are spending their time on your page. And today, people are doing that with Clarity. If you're talking about free tools, if you're talking about paid tools, they might be doing that with Hotjar, or other heat mapping tools. So it's very much on our radar to eventually introduce something like that into Replo so you can get a better understanding of how someone is ultimately engaging with your pages. But that's a little bit longer term. It's a little bit larger of a product to build. But near term, things like scroll depth, bounce rate, exactly what people are clicking on your Replo pages, those are the types of things that are more of a kind of fast follows to this initial beta launch.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah, amazing questions. Okay, cool. So a couple small other things to just pull out before we go into the deep dive of this analytics platform, and that is that we have two different types of reports that we are showing to our customers today. And it's really just the different types of ways that we do attribution for these different key metrics. When you go into Replo Analytics, a lot of our metrics are entry page metrics or landing page metrics, meaning that all of the conversion rate, AOV, revenue per session, etc., are associated with the very first page that a end customer lands on within a session. We also offer all viewed pages. And then in all viewed pages, this means that every single page that is viewed within a session does get some type of attribution towards these different key metrics. We have a bunch of additional information about like how we actually calculate our metrics in very, very clear language with some fun equations. If you were to open up this page that has all of our metric definitions on it, I think one key philosophy that we learned from our customers was that a lot of these other analytics tools hide the way that they calculate sessions or conversion rate or AOV. But for us, it was super important to be very, very transparent. So we are sharing exactly how we're calculating all of our different metrics. If people are interested or curious, they can even, get a raw CSV of the different events and they can calculate it themselves. I know that, that's something that we've had some of our early partners ask for. So yeah, we just want to be very, very transparent with our customers about how we're calculating all of this, and you can find out more by looking at our metric definitions there.
Looks like Warren
Um,
actually shared the link to the Notion doc, which is very
there you
sweet.
go. That's it. Yeah, cool. I'm gonna jump into one of these pages now because I think there's this other fun piece of Replo Analytics, which is this deeper dive view. This is where we hopefully are going to start to add some of those more page specific metrics where you can really see what's going on a specific page. For right now, the key things you're going to be able to look at are all of the different metrics that you see on that original page. You can do all of the same filtering that you had there. And then you can start to see visually how these have changed over time. You can sort this down to the hour if you would like. Maybe not the best example for looking at the last 30 days or like the last 7 days. Um, and then you can visually kind of see how these different things have changed over time. Once again, this is going to look a little funky because this is our internal tool. But I think for all of you that are actually seeing a lot more traffic, it's really fun to be able to drill down to the hour, especially if you're looking at a day or just a week of data and really see what the fluctuation is in terms of your customers getting onto your pages and what they're doing.
One of my
Um,
clients actually, they were on Shark Tank 2 weeks ago. It was November 1st. And it was actually fun to
mm,
watch the traffic spike and the conversion rate change hour by hour because the way Shark Tank airs is like they'll do the Eastern and Central time. at one time, and then you've got like your Mountain Time and your Pacific Time. So it's cool to see the trend line change just for that day alone. It's cool, and there were some like tweaks that I was making live inside of Replo to adjust for some of the stuff that I was seeing. So it's great to have this breakdown.
Oh my gosh. I love your stories all the time. That's amazing. Yeah, you can really, I think one thing to call out of what you just said, that is also something that was really important to our customers was real-time live analytics. Um, So other tools that will not be named, we know there is sometimes a significant delay on seeing some of these metrics come through. For Replo, as soon as you see a session get started on your site, you will see that session counted um, in the metrics that are on your analytics page. So if you have had an opportunity to already turn on Repl Analytics and engage in our analytics beta, you will see that data coming in immediately, which is pretty amazing. And I've gotten a chance to now sit on a lot of customer calls where they clicked that button and they're like, wow, it's already there. So I think that's something that is really important to us, and is more important to our customers. Everything is super fast, and it's appearing immediately.
Here's a great question from Luis. Out of curiosity, are y'all using the Shopify web pixel to track events like conversions, or no? It's a fun one.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we actually have a Replo pixel. So it is not the same thing as the Shopify pixel. We have our very own infrastructure that we've created, to calculate these key metrics and start to surface more key metrics. And because we have this own infrastructure, it's going to be a lot more flexible in the future for us to grow and expand, add new metrics, make changes to our metrics definitions, and things like that. So we are getting information from Shopify. So for example, if someone's on your site and they say they make a purchase, we get that purchase event from Shopify, and that is how we know that a purchase was made. But we have our own kind of Replo pixel and infrastructure that we've built for this analytics product that should allow us to make a lot of changes more quickly than if we fully relied on Shopify.
Well, it's one of the things that we spent a lot of time testing internally. Like I know we would host like testing parties where everybody in the company would come on, and we'd have like Shopify data pulled up right next to Replo data to make sure everything was tracking correctly. So we've done a lot
Yes.
of work to make the Replo Pixel very, very good, out of the box. And then, obviously, as Alicia said, we're going to be iterating. We're going to be making sure that there's a lot more features and functionality coming out of this product. And having our own Pixel allows us to expand that infrastructure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we did so much testing to make sure that we could support our customers as they go through really big boons in traffic, like what you're talking about with the Shark Tank customer, as well as just making sure that the data that we're reporting is really aligned with some of the other tools that our customers are using as well. So we had a lot of, I mean, shout out to we had some key partners really early on that were meeting with us every single week and sitting with us and talking with us about their experiences. And it was really amazing, to learn a little bit more about their struggles and what they were dealing with, and then sit down with them and get in the weeds about the definitions of these key metrics that, if you sit down and you think about it for a while, you're like, wow, what is really conversion rate? What really is AOV? But I think we aligned on some really strong best practices across the board and used some positive influence from a lot of these other tools that have set these best practices, but also just really made sure that it is, what like specific to Replo, and specific to landing pages, because we know that's just such a core piece of what Replo's product is.
Absolutely. All right, Alicia, what's next? What do we
Awesome.
got?
Let's go into experiments. So one key thing about experiments is that it does require the analytics beta to be enabled. So if anyone here has not gotten a chance to look at either one of these products, you do need to have the analytics beta enabled in order to deep dive into experiments. And you can kind of see how all the dots are being connected. We really wanted to make sure we could show all this awesome data in experiments. So we were kind of building out these two products in parallel. A key thing that I'm going to call out is I'm going to go into projects first, because I think this is really where a lot of our experimentation starts from. And that is, okay, maybe I saw that my conversion rate wasn't high enough on this, early Club Early Bird page that I created. What I want to do is increase that conversion rate on that page. So I'm going to go in and really take a look at that page. And at this point, maybe I'm using, Clarity to do that. Maybe I'm using a different tool. But let's just say I come in here and I really want to see, okay, what's the change that I want to make? Um, on this page, for example, this is my simple landing page V1. This is the page that I had launched and was getting traffic to. And ultimately, what I want to do is I want to see if my conversion rate might change if I move the buy box above this hero section. So I kind of want to play around with order here, and I want to see if that makes any difference on the conversion of this page specifically. So a lot of our customers, when they're in Replo, they're trying to figure out what they want to A/B test. They simply start by just duplicating a page. In this instance, this page was duplicated, and someone just really quickly dragged this, section below this main page, and that was it. And they went and published this page, and now it is ready for testing. So those are the two pages that I'm going to set up a test for, and this is going to be SLPv2. And I think we can kind of jump into the actual experimentation setup. One key thing to note as I go into experiments is that a lot of Replo experiments right now are based off the core concept of generating an experiment link. This was a decision that we made at the very beginning, but I do want to comment on as we go through this process that one of the key things we want to work on next is allowing customers to run experiments using the same URL for pages that they've already published. But with this current infrastructure that we have for our experiments, the links that you create for your experiments that you would drive ad traffic to, drive a user to whichever page split that you've decided instantaneously. So it is almost as if there's no flicker, there's no redirect, I'm going to see one header and then a millisecond later, I'm going to see a different header. Really, with this infrastructure, it means that your customers are getting to the variant that they should be getting to as quickly as possible. So that's a really key part of experiments. That's what you're going to see as I start to go through experiments. And that's the core concept of Replo experiments at the moment.
I know we'll
So
cover this later,
yeah.
but I did want to just like highlight it since we just said it. We're going to reinforce this point as we go along. As we mentioned earlier, with UTMs persisting and being able to filter by UTMs, when you set up a Replo experiment, let's say you're driving ad traffic to your experiment link, which Alicia's about to create, those UTMs persist. So let's say you've got your ad name dynamically being appended to UTM for that URL. That's going to track. We're going to be able to see that. You're going to be able to filter through that. So that's a really, really key thing as you're testing these things. But I did want to highlight that before. And we're going to talk about it now and then afterwards as well.
All right, awesome. Yes, I love that call out. Because we've definitely heard that question a lot. So that is a really, really key piece of our experiments today, and that's something that's really important to a lot of our customers. So thanks for calling that out. Amazing. So I'm gonna jump in here, and I'm just gonna name this experiment new experiment for webinar. Great, and you can see this in a draft state. So experiments in Replo are going to fall into 3 different types of states. It's when you create that experiment, it's going to be in draft. When you're making all these edits and you're actually setting it up, it's all in this draft state. And then once you start that experiment, it will be live, meaning that link that you create will split traffic, whichever way that you would like to have that traffic split. And then finally, when that experiment is over, you can end that experiment and it'll be in the experiment ended state. Right now, super early, so we're in this draft state. One key thing about Replo experiments is that we have this concept where you can reuse a link if there's no experiment that is live that is using that link. So that big use case is I'm driving ad traffic to an experiment link. I do not want to update that link at all. Obviously, that's going to start all of your ad algorithms all over again. That's a no-no. So what we did was make it so that when you end an experiment, you can reuse that experiment link again, and you create a new experiment. You can drive traffic again to a different split of pages. But that was something that was super important to our customers, was to not have to go in and replace that link every single time and still be able to experiment. So that was something that we added in the product. In this example, I'm going to actually create a new link. Let's say that it's a brand new campaign, and I'm going to be, uh, I know that I'm going to be creating a new ad set for this, so I'm just going to create a brand new experiment. There are three key components of our experiment links. The very first one is the domain. If you want to, you can come in and in our experiment settings on the homepage, you can add any domain that you might have. A lot of our customers, if you've bought your domain through Shopify, you can add subdomains like go. This is an example, go.trap.sh. I'm not sure what brand that is. This is our test account. But that might be a brand where their domain was trap.sh and they just added the go. And what that does is it allows them to brand their experiment link for Replo in a way that maybe it's not saying Replo Edge. And then it is something that is a little bit closer to that brand identity. The group name is going to be what's next. That is something that also helps identify and brand that URL so that it feels a little bit more like your brand. In this case, I'll just select ABC, but you can add as many different group names as you want. If you want it to be around like fall campaigns or something, that could be something you could put in here. And then this might be the slug for a specific set of those campaigns. For this one, I'm going to say webinar slug. And then I'm going to go and create this link.
Alicia, you let me know when you're ready for questions. I've got two primed
Oh
for you.
yeah, yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right. So first question from Mert. Is there a way to test Shopify themes against one another, or is A/B testing just on the different URLs?
That's a great question, because I do know that there are other A/B testing tools that do allow you to do that. Right now, you cannot do that with Replo's A/B testing tool, though that is something that we are looking into potentially adding.
Got it. Second question is there also a way to test using UTM parameters? So showing a different landing page based on like Google Ads traffic versus Facebook Ads traffic. Are we able to split from like a platform source?
Yes, that's a great question. So today, that is not something they are able to do. But as we start thinking about, we just released this product on Monday. So we know that there's a lot of additions we want to be making. One of the key additions that is something that is going to be a little easier for us to do is something like target based on UTM parameters. So filtering down who's going to be seeing what, and really doing that targeting for the experiment URL based on specific criteria. Because we're already tracking something like UTM parameters that you can see in the analytics platform, that's something we want to bring into experiments sooner rather than later.
Got it. We do have one more question related to like the entry pages versus the all viewed pages. Let's
Yes.
hold on that. We'll definitely get to that question, but I'll let you go through this screen before we go back to the analytics screen.
Okay, awesome. I'm seeing a bit of a problem creating that link right now. I think this is our demo environment, so I'm assuming that's probably the reason why. So I'm going to come back in here and actually just use this experiment link that I had already used for another example. And then I'm going to come in here and search for that SLP1, and then I'm going to search for that SLP2. And those are the two pages that I want to drive traffic between. For right now, I'm going to do 50/50, though know that in Replo you can do more variations than this. You can really do as many as you might want. I think our limit is 10 or something. at that level, which typically not a lot of our customers are doing. But in case you wanted to, you can add as many variants as you might like. There's not really a hard limit until you get up there into the double digits. And then you can also come in here and add a little description of my experiment. With this, I think we're good to go. So I'm going to save those changes and start that experiment. Once the experiment is live, that is when we can start actually going in and kind of testing and seeing what's going on. So I'm going to copy this link, and if you open this link in a new tab, and I'll just put it in the webinar as well, so everyone can kind of look at this. And yes, yes, you can email me. Yes. I haven't looked at the chat yet. So I just put the link in the chat. Everyone on here can go in and start to see this link. If you hit the link, you will see one of the pages or the other page, depending on what variant you saw. I'm seeing the one where the hero section is second, and I think that is variant B. And you all might be seeing some different things. There you go. Cool. Yeah. So once again, a lot of this data is instantaneous. I see that multiple people are selecting, and we're seeing a lot of traffic that is variant B. If I keep refreshing, we might be seeing some more people click on this. But it looks like the first 3 people saw variant B. All of this data is instantaneous. And you can see things like conversion rate, sessions, average order value, revenue per session, a lot of the same metrics that we have on the analytics side. And that's what you'll be seeing coming in addition to the total number of sessions, the duration of that experiment, the start date here, and then the eventual end date. A big question that we've been asked that is going to be coming shortly is a measure to see which one is most likely to win. So we've developed our own definition of likelihood to win. It is in progress right now of being implemented. So that is something that should help a lot of our customers get a better sense of which variant in this experiment is most likely to win based on the results that we have. So that is something that we are actively working on adding to our experiments products right now. But right now you still can see, all of these key metrics and make these decisions for yourself on who the winner is for these different experiments.
Really quickly to something that I'm thinking of. The first 3 people to pull up this experiment, they were shown variant B. This is still randomized though. The traffic's still, it's like a 50-50.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, I know we're seeing some more on the B, but it is the split that is here for 50-50%. So there might be something a little strange with what this is, but once again, this is our demo site. So, but yeah, it should split this traffic completely equal 50-50, and all these results will be updated live.
Got it.
Great.
This probably is a good opportunity for us to go back to the analytics screen and to ask
Yeah.
Warren's question. All right, so I'm going to put it on screen. I'm actually going to leave it on for 10 seconds, but I'm going to read this whole thing out. It's a doozy, so I'll read it out.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
the question's actually not that complicated. It's just a long message.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on what the metrics on all viewed pages mean? For example, if you only had one visitor who is your one customer and they go to homepage, financing info page on Klarna, product page,
Mm-hmm.
cart checkout, then do
Yep.
all 5 pages with the same metrics.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So I think it's a question of how we're doing attribution for all viewed pages, and that is exactly right. What we did and what we decided to do for our all viewed pages metrics was each page that is visited gets an equal amount of attribution for that conversion specifically. We've seen other tools do this slightly differently, and we've considered different ways to showcase these metrics in the future. But for the beginning, for this beta, we kind of wanted to make it as simple as possible. So it's either if it's the first page that you land on, and that's the entry pages report, then that's going to be what will be attributed to these different numbers. And then if you have a session where you visit a bunch of different pages, each page will get equal attribution for that one conversion. And that was the way that we decided to move forward with the um, with the all view pages
Got it. And
for
so
right
just from
now.
like a business perspective, maybe you've got some good customer anecdotes here. Um, are people defaulting to like viewing the entry page? When do you use which, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think this also relates to how people use Replo. A lot of our customers are very focused on Replo as a landing page builder right now. Um, and because of that, we default to the entry pages, and that was everyone will default to this view. We have seen a lot of people switch between these because we know that for um, across the board, we have people that are using more and more of Replo's functionality, not just as landing pages. And so we're trying to help those customers that are using, you know, product pages in Replo and aren't necessarily driving ad traffic to that product page directly, learn a little bit more about how those pages are performing. So that's really the key difference between those two. But we are defaulting to entry pages. Landing pages are really the key application of Replo at the moment. And that's why we are showing metrics in this way by default.
Got it. Warren, let me know in the chat if that adequately answers the second part of your question. Or actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and throw it up.
Mm,
Here, we'll go
okay.
this one. So knowing which pages people visit, then go on buy is good, but revenue is attributed all over. So he's still trying to understand like kind of like the value of the sum metric for the all viewed pages
Hmm.
versus a percentage metric.
I see. So like a percentage being essentially like the difference that I guess maybe like what would be the most useful from your perspective? Um, you can just type it into the chat, but I'd love to hear what your feedback is because we've kind of heard a lot of different perspectives from different customers about what's the most helpful to them. So I'd love to hear what might be the most helpful for you.
One great benefit of y'all being live on this chat is that you are actively helping us refine how we think about and build
Yeah.
this product. So um, Warren's response was any examples that might shed light
Okay,
on
interesting. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's just, if you have someone who's had a session on your site that's visited five different pages, and you're seeing someone visit, the same page over and over again, or you're seeing a large swath of people visit the same page, but it's not the first page, seeing a high conversion rate on another page on your site that's not typically a landing page might still give you hints as to what is or isn't working across your site. So we've seen people have a page that is have a very unexpected high conversion rate. And maybe it's one of their product pages, and they're seeing that for some reason people going to this product page, it's not the first page they visit, it's just a page that they're visiting in the session, but it has a super, super high conversion rate for some reason. And so they can go look at that page and see, well, this one is converting a lot higher than my other products. And I don't know why right now, but now I see an indicator that it is converting a lot higher than my other pages, and I can dig more into that example.
this is kind of like a funnel view. I know there used to be in Universal Analytics a way to like look at all the different page paths. I think it's something that we're going to iterate on for sure. But for me, like I think a big piece is like a lot of times I'll drive traffic to a listicle directly, and then the second page will be the product page. So being able to like
Yeah.
kind of split that out and seeing okay, what it kind of gives me a broader sense of how the funnel, the health of the funnel, and then also like being able to drill directly into um, that specific page. So for example, if I'm testing a landing page that's just like, hey, buy this thing, here's directly to the offer, being able to kind of see that information and being able to spit all that out. Maybe if people are able to get to that page, that offer page from a different way, that all viewed pages allows you to kind of see, oh, if I go just look at this from an entry perspective, um, maybe it's not performing great, but if it's actually like holistically performing really well, then you're getting a little bit more signal on hey, this is the funnel, not so much this is the page that's actually driving results for my business.
Yes, yes. And I love that you brought up that more. funnel view for that example, because I think that is really where we see, Replo going and some of these metrics going is that, typically people go to a landing page and it's one page. And a lot of our customers do have landing pages with the buy now button and that's it. And the customer goes to the cart and they buy and that's it. That's the end of story. But a lot of our customers have a much, I would say, longer customer journey where you might go from one page to another page to another page before deciding that you want to buy or you want to purchase. And so I think something that we're thinking a lot about is more of those like funnel graphs, thinking a little bit more about the customer journey, how they go from one location to another, what they do on each one of those pages. So that's something that we are yeah, kind of like deeply thinking about in the next
Incredible.
as we go into 2025, which is really
Yeah,
wild.
nuts. I know, just to be mindful of time, we've got 5 minutes left. Alicia, is there anything you want to cover before we just open up for just more Q&A to close it out?
I don't think so. I think the very last thing is I'll just pull up, ending an experiment and just making sure that once an experiment is over, you feel like you've gotten to the point where you've uh, gotten enough information about how that experiment went overall. You can come in here and complete that experiment, and all traffic will then be diverted to that winner that you just selected there. So that's really it. But I would love to see if there's any other questions. I'm here to answer them. I do want to say, like, both of these products are early. We really wanted to focus on making sure that we could get some of the key pieces of information to customers, especially in time for Black Friday as things start to surge up. And that was our main goal. But we have an entire team staffed on these products now. We have a lot of amazing feedback from our customers, and we are very excited to keep building these products. And the more feedback that we get from you all as you start to use them is going to be super helpful for us right now, because we want to make sure that we can deliver on all of the different use cases that you have. So yeah, just thanks for your feedback. Thanks for listening. And I'm here if there's any other final questions.
The big question that I have is how much does this stuff cost? Are we
Oh my
are we
gosh.
absolutely gouging everybody
Yeah.
here, Alicia? No, we're
I'm
not gouging
I'm
anyone.
so surprised that no one asked this question. So analytics free for all paying customers. So there's nothing that we are charging for this additional analytics experience. We really thought it was important to get this key information to customers ASAP, and it should really be just included with your Replo plan. So depending on whatever tier you're on, you are getting access to Replo Analytics. And then experiments is also available on all plans. You can see on our pricing page on our website that there is up to a certain amount of sessions that you get access to on every single tier in Replo. So that's really how our A/B testing tool is working. And yeah, I think pretty generous for the most part. I think every customer, no matter what their traffic is, should be able to test using Replo experiments and feel like they're getting a good deal out of it. So I think that's really it, is that you do have access to these on any Replo paid plan, and we hope everyone starts using them and trying them out.
It's awesome. All right, we've got 2 more minutes left. Any other questions? Drop them in the chat while you have us. And if there's something that comes up afterwards, feel free to email us as well. We're open to any and all feedback and any other questions you might have if you aren't able to drop it in the chat.
Yes, I saw one question about showing how to get the experiment link again. Yeah, so just to go back in when you create a new experiment, and I'll call out the settings as well. This is the area that I kind of talked about for setting up custom domains and setting up group names. You can do that right here in the experiment settings. But when you create a new experiment and you come in here, you can really quickly just select a domain, select a slug, and then create that link here in experiments. For some reason, it's not happening immediately for me at this exact moment, but it should be that simple. And then when you come in here for any experiment link that you've ended, you can see these ones are in use because they're grayed out. But anyone that's available, you can come in here and reuse.
All right, Warren, we'll follow up. I'll have Alicia follow up with you directly. I'm sure just having any issues, just make sure you're set up correctly there.
Yeah.
Um, we'll make sure we get on with you right after.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that being said, I think we'll wrap it up. Alicia, thank you so much for walking us through this. This is super helpful for me as well, as someone who's using this product every single day. But really, really hopeful that everyone else who was on live enjoyed this, and I hope that everybody starts using Replit Analytics and experiments ASAP.
Yes.
All right.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for joining.
All right. Thanks, everyone.